Hey everybody, welcome back to the show, the weekly polemic, as I describe it on the website, solitary polemic, or is that implied in the polemic? Either way, good to be talking with you. I do try to reach out. In fact, I am working on one project right now that involves other people, believe it or not just me talking to myself, other people, reaching out, connecting, promoting myself, promoting other people, win-win. We'll see if it works out, though. You know, I always run into this problem because some things that I say are controversial. In fact, I don't know. Did I tell you guys this? I was going to have this one conversation with a psychologist who was working for this. I don't want to say give too much away because, I don't want to expose him or anything because it wasn't his fault or anything. It was just given the confines of his work, he couldn't talk to me. And you know why he couldn't talk to me? Was it anything offensive I said? Was it anything about women? Was it anything about masculinity? Nothing like that. It was because of the word empire. The word empire is problematic, or it could be interpreted as problematic in a certain context, so he just couldn't talk with me. Not his fault. He was kind of apologetic about it. He's like, look, I'd like to talk with you about this issue. I think you're doing a good job. I think that we need to talk about this more, so any opportunity I can take, happy to do it, but I cannot be associated with the word empire. And what a culture of fear. I mean, from what little I know, of living in Nazi Germany, of living in Soviet Russia, I'm sure it's the same thing in Maoist China, but just like, who do you associate with? You can't be right, you can't be wrong. Yeah, fear of being right. Fear of being right as much as fear of being wrong, fear of associating with the wrong person. Because what does it mean to be right? That means somebody else could potentially, could be interpreted as, in a certain context, potentially problematic. That word, problematic. It's just a culture of fear. A lot of fear. Fear rules academia. I know it's not just psychology, it's other fields too. I was reading this one book about, archaeology and geology, and there's just seems to be a very similar culture of fear in those fields as well. If you have possibly the wrong idea or possibly an unorthodox idea, and I'm on record talking with you, even if I'm openly disagreeing with you, it could still come off as some sort of malassociation. And we're not even talking about something that's un-PC, anything like that. Just facts, perhaps a theory that goes outside the orthodoxy. You can't talk to you. A lot of fear. And that's what happens in industries run mostly by, in zero sum. There's only a certain amount of grant money you get from the government. That's the culture. That's the culture we create when we create endowments for things that we like. It makes it just, giving your brother-in-law money, right? Or just giving anybody money, giving anybody a monthly stipend they don't have to work for. It just shuts them off, putting somebody on rent control. And then you end up with that guy who's been living in that rent-controlled apartment in the East Village. I know I talked about that. Paying $300 a month, just like holed up. Like he's in some kind of foxhole, like in Vietnam, holed up in his bathtub, just not leaving. They want to knock this building down. They're buying him out. No, I'm spending $300 a month in my East Village apartment. So now more and more psychology goes to, how do I figure out how to stay in this apartment, as opposed to, what can I do to make more money? What can I do to expand and grow, and who do I connect with, right? That's the idea. And right now in academia, there's just this real culture of fear, which is too bad. Because where does creativity come from? Lots of places. I think anybody can be creative. That's true. I know that sounds like a very feel-goodery. If you grew up in the 90s, you definitely heard that. Anybody could be creative, which is true. Some people are naturally more creative than others, let's be honest, but anybody can be creative. And what's the environment in which creativity is naturally going to spring forth from is, no fear, but you're okay it's okay to fail. It's okay to be wrong. It's okay, dare I say, to be right. How did psychology get its start? It was Freud saying, hey, culture, that one thing that you don't want to talk about? Well, that's where all of the issues stem from is this one thing, sexuality, and it's actually important to our psychology and who we are and how we relate with other people. Now, I don't agree with Freud on everything, but he came out and said a lot of very not politically correct things. And it was the Wild West in psychology. So he probably there was this sense of freedom that he could do that. Jung had this sense of freedom of invoking religion. Let's bring religious symbols back into psychology to help us figure out our unconscious. Couldn't do that now. Yeah. I mean, Freud was like, hey, maybe you want to have sex with your mom. Now, Freud didn't really think that. But, I mean, that was marketing in a sense. And he didn't really think, no, he did think that all trauma was sexual trauma. But he didn't think that you literally wanted to have to kill your father and marry your mother. But that was his way of communicating it to get out to the most amount of people. I mean, right now, the way that academia is, like, nobody would talk to Freud. Nobody would publish his books. So just, what's creativity? We're not going to get new ideas from this culture of fear. And I can't associate with you because this word in the name of your website may potentially be problematic. To know me is to know that that's my pet peeve, is that word problematic. Yeah, that's exactly the wrong. Yeah, that's the problem. Excuse me, I was thinking about something else. Man, you can't be right. You can't be wrong, definitely, but also you can't be right. Just imagine being in communist Russia. Oh, don't talk to that person. He may have seen going to this one meeting, and if he was seen going to this one meeting, even if you're just saying hi in the street, just so much fear, like fear to such an extent you don't even see it anymore. Like, this is the mental health crisis. Not that people can't get therapy. They can. It's out there. There's tons of ways to get, maybe not technically therapy, but something at least akin to therapy. It's all out there. But the ideas in the field are so stagnant because, ironically, right, the same reason why there's a mental health epidemic is the same reason why the mental health industry, can't offer a solution that's helpful. I really think the way this needs to go is mass production of psychology. I know that sounds, but we're all different. We all have our own unique experiences. Yeah, but there's a sense in which we are all the same. I mean, look, if you had to make, there would be a shoe crisis. There would be a shoe crisis if you couldn't mass produce shoes. If you had to take somebody's foot, measure it exactly. But no, you do enough of that, enough with the cobblers, and you go, you know what? All people's feet are relatively the same size. Like even somebody who's 5 foot to somebody who's 6.5 feet, like their feet are still within a few inches of each other. So why don't we just make increments of shoes, right? In that range, they're all about this wide. People like about this thing and shoe. So we'll just take this kind of shoe that people like, mass produce it. So even if they try a shoe and they don't like it, that's okay. There's more. There's another one. There's another one. And that's what needs to happen with psychology. But we can't even think of going there. I mean, just what I said there, it just would be extremely triggering. I know, because I brought it up. And you don't even, people don't even listen. It's very difficult to get people to listen. You have to couch it in so many different qualifiers. Like, I know people are different. We're all unique. We have our unique experiences. I know I'm just a white male saying this, but from my white male perspective, I know that it's, flawed. Just qualifier after qualifier, just to get through to people. Because all these emotional blocks, fear. It's fear. But, that's why I'm doing this, right? That's why I want to talk with you guys. That's why I think this is really important. It's just crucial to not only your mental health, but the mental health of Western civilization, the soul of America. Got to be able to talk about this stuff. Yeah, America's soul, like your individual soul. That's why when you go into therapy, it's completely confidential. There are some qualifiers to that too. If you're an APA licensed psychologist, like if somebody's potentially a threat, or somebody could potentially be a threat and they do hurt that person and it comes back on you. I don't believe that. We don't hold priests. priests in confession, we don't hold them to those standards. It needs to be totally open or totally confidential, whatever you want to say. I've been having thoughts about, beating up my wife. Well, who hasn't? But now people are afraid to even talk about that, even though talking about that may be a lens into really solving the issue. But people don't want to do that because they're scared, because they don't want to be reported. The age of fear, or is it the age of anger? I mean, I talked about this in the Brazen Head, so I don't want to go too into it now, but I saw The Joker a couple weeks ago. And it's just amazing to me how this movie, the politics in the movie, just to reiterate what I said, I will make a new point here in a couple minutes, I swear. But the politics in the movie were clearly left, but who identified with it? People from the right. Which just goes to show, well, why did they identify with it? Because they identified emotionally with Joker and what he was going through. I'm not seen. I'm not heard. People aren't paying attention to me. I can't reach out. I can't communicate. I just feel trapped. And that's more powerful than the politics. Relating with somebody on an emotional level is way more powerful than the politics, which I think is a pretty good indication of what we could do to heal whatever sort of schism there is in our country, if we even do want to heal it. I mean, I don't even think that's the best thing. I mean, ultimately, America needs to balkanize, not because, that's not doomsday. It's just how things work. It's just the natural progression of civilization. When a civilization gets too big, too powerful, too many different people from too many different backgrounds. I'm not even talking about race or ethnicity. I do think that's part of it. I mean, we do identify with that to some degree, but I don't even think that's the main thing. It's just culturally, we're too different. We break up. It's fine. That's what happens. But I think in order to make it as peaceful as possible, right, that's the issue. It's going to happen. I don't know if in my lifetime or what, but it's going to happen. The only question is, how are we going to make it peaceful? And the way to make it peaceful is you got to connect. You got to connect like maybe a shut down white male who, not even alt-right, but maybe more attracted alt-right, or at least more understanding of alt-right ideas. You got to we not like how he connects with the Joker. That's how we need to connect with somebody, because by that guy connecting with the Joker is, I mean, right there, he's clearly connecting with somebody who has a different political views than he has, because that's what we need, right? We think we need to agree. We don't. We need that emotional connection. He connects with the anger, and that's is this the age of anxiety, the age of attachment disorder? Sure, it's the age of anger. It's the age of being unable to express anger, thinking that anger is bad, like just implicitly, especially living in a culture that's been steeped in, not just Christianity, but Marxism. I see these as shadow reflections of each other, steeping in these two ideologies for a really long time. I mean, Marxism piggybacked off of Christianity, and Marx knew that he was doing it. That's what he says explicitly in the Communist Manifesto. These ideas are going to take hold because they fall right in line with the Christian ethic. Don't stand out. Don't brag about yourself. Put other people first. Sacrifice your needs for somebody else. What are your needs? Who cares? You're only valuable. The implication, you're only valuable to the extent that you're part of the group. And then 200 years later, we get Joker. We wonder why people are relating to it. Of course, because, you just don't even feel it. You don't even feel the need. You don't even feel the anger. Like that meme that I really like. the dog and with the... in the room that's burning down, and he's saying this is fine. And of course, what makes that meme perfect is that he has his cup of coffee. It just makes it perfect. Oh, this is fine. Oh, I'm fine. Oh, I don't need that. I don't know. I'm fine. You can't even feel the anger. Now, of course, why can't you feel the anger? Because of the anxiety. The anxiety is about the anger. So you just shut the anger down. You can't even communicate what you need. Or when you do communicate, it's every 6 months or every year, and you just blow up. And you go, well, I don't want to do that anymore. Time to start repressing the anger again. It's anxiety about anger. Or does the anger come first? But it's just different ways, the same thing. Just like when I talk about how your anxiety map works, or how anxiety works through the anxiety map, how anger works through the anger map, how using those, how to the extent that you can use those two emotions constructively, how that creates your boundary. Just different ways of saying the same thing. So age of anxiety, age of anger, it's just different parts of the same thing. I mean, chiral images. Those maps are chiral images of each other. Just a little thought I had about Joker, something to keep in mind. Like, yeah, like you relate it. Like, you have a difficult time understanding where let's say you're on the alt-right. I mean, I know I have alt-right listeners. I have liberal listeners. I have Christian listeners. I have Jewish listeners, which I think is like some indication that I am, getting at something more fundamental, like what the Joker was getting at. The politics was just on the surface. But let's say you're alt-right and you went and saw the Joker and you related with him. You related with him to such an extent that you don't even notice the politics, even though there was clearly an effigy of Trump in one of those crowds, one of those protests in the Joker. Okay, and then you say, where's these stupid liberals, these stupid woke SJWs? I can't even understand where they come from. This doesn't make any sense. Yeah, it does make sense. I know you can relate. And likewise with the SJW wokeness. It's the same issue. And I know you can do it because you went and saw the Joker and you actually thought it was a good movie. Okay, this is a question that came up. I was talking with somebody this week, but it's come up before. I guess I could have done it in a Q&A video, but I don't know. It involves some extrapolation. And it's the paradox of relating with your family. I just cannot express that enough, how just important it is to relate with your family, especially, well, if you're younger, your mom and dad, if you're older, your wife and children, your immediate family, and then use the connections that you build in your immediate family as a launching pad out, as like a strategic stronghold, like a bulwark, a foothold, not a bulwark. What's the word for that? A foothold, whatever. A foothold into, your next handhold, if to make it a climbing analogy. And this is what really important for family. But if you can't do that with your family, then that's why there's group. The group is the family that never was. If you can't even have that connection, you can't even create that kind of psychological launch pad with your family, then that's what group is for. What was I talking about? So it's important to reach out and connect. I mean, that's how we begin to regulate our emotions, is to begin communicating more in a better way, more honest, take what we're hiding, our resentments about our family. How do we communicate those in a way that is nice, actually? Our anxiety, what we're going through, what we don't like, this, that, what you're working on. I just think that's really important. I mean, I know that's really important. That's how we begin to regulate our emotions. That's the launching pad. But I also say, right, what's the step one of adult development is separation. So it just seems paradoxical. How can you, so you talk about, communicating with your family more and reaching out with them and creating a better relationship, but you also say to separate. Yeah, because that's the separation. The better communication is, it is the separation. Where there is no communication, there is no separation. It's about defining your boundary, managing your anxiety about that relationship, managing your anger, resentment, and your sadness about that relationship. And that, of course, creates the stronger boundary in you, and that invariably creates a stronger boundary in somebody else. It's a better relationship, even though you are separated psychologically. I mean, it's just like in all really intense border disputes. That's, one of my favorite jokes from Bart versus Australia is when Bart makes Homer's reading through the list of calls that Bart was making to the southern hemisphere to find out which way the toilet flushes. One of the calls was to disputed zone. And that's just a great joke, because just by knowing that it's called disputed zone, we all get on some level that there's some sort of civil war there, because there's just like this vague connection between two countries. And they're not really sure who owns what. And that's why there's that constant war there. And it's no real separation. And that's the same thing, in you and relating and separating your boundary from a family member. What's the disputed zone? Talk about that. the separation becomes more clear, your identity becomes more clear, your father's identity becomes more clear, your mother's identity, child's identity, and you begin to separate more, and you're less codependent. I mean, yeah, that's the real conflation here, is that enmeshment is closeness. It is not closeness. It is, it's like a separation with a pretense of closeness. It's it's a closeness with a pretense of separate. I mean, it would be closeness if you were a child. And that's where we learn these things. That's where we learn enmeshment when we're 1, 2, and 3, which is a great time to experience enmeshment, right? You don't have, a 1-year-old doesn't have a boundary. His boundary is whatever the look on mommy's face is. That's really important. It's extremely important, not only for his survival, but for his psychological development. But when you're 15, 25, 35, then it's an indication, right, like I just said, like you're an infant in a way. You don't have your own boundary. And it's because there are these disputed zones in your relationship. So paradoxically, by creating a better relationship, more honest, right? Take what's in your psychology, take what's in your psyche and communicate it to your parents. That's the gym. We were talking about this in group, animusempire.com/group. Like, man, wouldn't it be cool if there was some kind of gym you could go to work on your psychology? Right? Like you go to a gym to work on your shoulders. You can do that. And you can get your shoulders to so strong, way stronger than you would ever need for any real life situation, right? Your shoulders are ready. You go in and do enough military press, your shoulders will be ready for anything. Oh man, wouldn't it be great if there was a gym like that, but for your psychology? And there is. It's called your family. Work on these issues. And if you can't do it there, then that's what therapy is for. That's what group is for. Work on it in group. First it's group, then it's family, and then that's the launching pad. That's the springboard into being that honest, that open, having that much of a personality. How in touch are you with your psyche? Not just your conscious, but your unconscious, to the extent that you're in touch of, aware of, and accept your unconscious and how you communicate that with other people. The gym for that is your dad. What are you hiding from your dad? Are you creating a better, Are you becoming closer to him? Yes, but not in an enmeshment kind of way. In an honest adult relationship kind of way. You're taking these disputed zones, this boundary dispute between two countries, and you're just solidifying it. Are they becoming closer? Yes. And at the same time, they're becoming more separate. They're becoming their own entity. It's a more honest relationship. That's really what you're going for. Yeah, I just think that there's this conflation, this ambiguous connotation around closeness. You're not close with your mom when you go and help her, and you're afraid if you don't help her, then she's not going to be happy, or I need to protect my mom, or I can't be honest with my mom about certain things about me because, it'll hurt her feelings. That's not closeness. That's not a good relationship. That's a pretense. It's a pretense to closeness, but it's not. And 99% of people in this world are going to see that relationship and go, oh, you're so good to your mom. Like Joker, right? That's the codependence fantasy. Everybody will just tell you how nice you are to your mom and you're going to get all these benefits. And people are just going to recognize how good I am because I'm good to my mom. No, you're not good to your mom. You're afraid. You're afraid, like academia. It's like fear so deep you don't even see it anymore. You just start to call it good. And we start to create moral systems and structures. And 2,000 years later, we're still steeping in this. And you really got to look and be honest with what's really going on, what really the nature of a human is, and what he needs to do to develop psychologically, to see reality, to be in touch with reality, to create a connection with reality through the connection with other people. And it's not going to come from, to go back to my original point, it's definitely not going to come from a culture of fear. That's for sure. And it's something I hear from very intelligent, maybe practical, analytical, top heavy on super ego, maybe Freud would say, cerebral kind of guys, is, it's difficult. Like, you see people in your life who have problems. You see people in your life who you have problems and you want to help them out. So you try to help them out and they're resistant to it. You're like, well, I'm not even going to try. And then you start to get these thoughts like people don't even want a solution to their problem. And you really start to think that. I mean, in a way that's true. People don't want a solution to their problem because, again, we're addicted to our struggle. We're addicted to our payoff. I think I tweeted the other day, like, it's just no fun to admit that there is a world full of people out there who want to help you. It's no fun to admit. Because you've been struggling with this problem for 3, 4, 5, maybe 10, 20 years. And it's just no fun. It just sucks to go, if I could just go ask somebody for help. Well, I tried to ask somebody for help. Well, you got to ask somebody else. You got to keep asking. You got to keep reaching out. And I just think people fall into this trap of that people in general don't want a solution to their problem, which is not true. And I think this is something, I mean, if you look at people like computers, which if you're intelligent, very practical, probably have like a coder kind of mentality, probably likely a bunch of you out there. Well, personally a bunch of you. Then you just start to think that people just don't want an answer to their problems. So when people bring up their problems, you don't say anything and you shut down. This is very similar to if you're at a cocktail party. I talked about this a couple months ago. If you're at a cocktail party, same sort of a crowd, coder, practical, top heavy, cerebral, probably into stoicism to some degree, mindset training. If you're at a cocktail party and somebody brings up something that you disagree with, or they're talking about something that you know a lot about and it's clear by the way that they're talking about it, you can tell they don't really know what they're talking about, you just don't say anything. Just don't say anything because what's the point? No use of arguing. And this is just a rationalization to disconnect. This is a rationalization of the anxiety, of your inability to connect. People do want a solution, but you know what people don't want? And they're right not to want it. People don't want you to tell them exactly what they need to do to fix the problem. People do not want that. People, and you know why they don't want that? Because by you telling them what to do, and this goes to every cognitive behavioral therapist out there, by you telling them what to do, by you looking at their life and going, oh, well, clearly you need to start waking up early. Oh, clearly you need to do this, this, and that, and this is what you need to say to your mom. By you telling them what to do directly, concretely, take these definite steps. Not abstraction, right? I'm giving you the map. You can decide where to go once I give you the map. I'm going to give you the map and I'm going to show you how to drive the car. That's the archetypes. But I'm not going to tell you where to go. That is for you and your free will. And we just have this instinctive hatred, the instinctive reaction against somebody who's even trying to impinge on our free will a little bit by telling us A, B, and C. Concretely do this, and that. And we're right to do that. You're actually wrong for trying to help somebody, right? Just the classic complaint. There's that great video a couple years ago. The woman had the nail in her head. She's like, yeah, I just feel all this pain from the nail in my head. And the guy, practical, more analytical, more cerebral, stronger prefrontal cortex, weaker amygdala. It's just like, well, just take the nail out of your head. That's for her to figure out. That's for her to do. And the way to get what people really want is a connection from exactly what I was talking about with the family. If you don't have it with the family, you get it in group. You need a connection from which you're more likely to take the nail out of your head yourself. That's what's important, This is what a movie is, right? This is exactly what a movie is. It's a solution to your problem. It's a solution to your emotional issue. Yeah. But it's not telling you what to do. What makes good art? It doesn't tell you, it shows you. It's a demonstration. Here's what somebody else did. This is why stories are really important. This is what I'm going through. Does it help you? I don't know. This is what I'm going through. To the extent that you can relate with it, that helps you. That's the solution. That's why I know I've talked about this before and it just sounds super pretentious. Oh, it just sounds like my head's really far up my butt. I mean, it is, but it sounds like it's even farther up my butt when I say something like this. You don't want to know, I mean, regardless of theoretical leanings, where somebody's coming from, I have my way of looking at psychology. I think it's correct. I think it's the next step. It's probably not complete, but this is right. This is where we need to go. This unification of CBT, of cognitive psychology, and depth psychology. We need to make more sense out of each supposedly different view of man and his psychology by linking these together and showing how they can connect through a structure of our emotions. But forget all that. Forget a therapist's theoretical leanings, anything like that. You want to know how a therapist is good, or how, that he should be a therapist and not doing something else, is if he's interested in literature and art. If he became interested in literature and art before he got interested in psychology. Anybody who just goes from undergrad, not being that interested in, you read Ethan Frome for English class, but you're not that interested in it. You're not reading novels on your own. You're not going to the art museum on your own. So you do that in undergrad, and then you just go right into graduate school because you just think, oh, well, this is something good I could do. Maybe I could do some kind of research here, and it seems like something. They're never going to be a good psychologist. Never. Almost never. Yeah, it's just impossible. Well, why? Because literature and art was psychology before psychology was psychology. You aren't interested in the history of religion. Oh, I'm not religious. Doesn't matter. If you're not interested in that, you're not really interested in psychology. You get some kind of maybe weird payoff from being in psychology, like you like going to cocktail parties or hanging out with your friends from high school and telling them about all this exciting research and grant money that you're getting. That's really what you're going for, I would argue. Understanding that is understanding psychology. It's it's really important, like really important lessons I got, even from Les Miserables, right? Jean Valjean. You know what's great about Les Miserables? It's 1,300 pages of you got to mess up to understand why you messed up so you can go on and live the life that you want. You can't just come into this world knowing what you want, knowing what your values are, knowing how to act to achieve those values. You come into this world imperfect and you learn by messing up specifically. You got to go down before you can get up. It took, Jean Valjean, how many freaking pages? At least, 3/4 of that book, 3/4 of those 1,300, 1,400 pages to learn that honesty is important. He had to be a liar for a couple hundred pages. He had to just be dishonest, a wretch, a miserable person to his core. And then only from that can you really learn honesty. And I just don't think unless you get those impressions early on, you're just not going to understand psychology. You're going to be very attracted to something like cognitive behavioral therapy. And, this is solution focused. This is evidence-based. It's all BS. It's all BS because you don't really understand. You're looking at the research, but you don't understand what people really want. You don't understand people don't want solution-based. That doesn't work for psychology. That works for programming. That works for fixing cancer, but even then it doesn't work for fixing it. People want to cure cancer in a lot of ways, even in their own way, right? Like I'm gonna do my diet thing, whatever Steve Jobs is doing. I mean, how many famous people? It's probably a list somewhere. How many famous people have died of cancer needlessly because they had some weird thought about how it was going to work? I have my weird thoughts about how it works. I'm not going to get into that now, but even with something as black and white as cancer, pancreatic cancer, dude, you're seriously going to die. I knew somebody. I mean, I didn't know somebody myself, but I kind of knew this guy through this. It doesn't matter. When I was living in San Francisco, sorry about that booger party there. When I was living in San Francisco, this guy, and he was using Chinese medicine, Chinese guy. And he's using Chinese medicine. I think it was pancreatic cancer. He was using Chinese medicine through the first couple stages. Oh, that didn't work. And then when he went in to get treatment for it, it was like, okay, it's too late. And then he was dead. I think it was maybe 25. Just a few years ago. This wasn't 1643. Yeah. I just want to go and solve people's problems. And then you just get this dark view of humanity, like they don't want their problems solved. Which again is true to some degree, right? We have our past. We get addicted to our struggle. We get addicted to whatever emotional state we go into from not facing our problems after shutting down. So that is true to some degree, but it's not like people go around, they don't want a solution to their problem. No, they do. They just don't want you to lecture at them. Because then you're impinging on their free will. They need to figure it out for themselves. They don't need the problem fixed. That's the misconception. Right? They need to become the kind of person who can fix that problem. Big difference. Sounds subtle. If you didn't get that, go back and listen to what I just said. And I got this other issue that came up this week. Do I have time? Yeah, I'm just going to talk about this. This will take 5 minutes. But then I always get some kind of question like this, like either death or not death. Yeah, death. You know, what happens if there's anxiety coming in and it's caused by something that you actually can't face, like death? Right? That's the example. How do you face death? I mean, that's an anxiety-provoking situation, right? Well, how do you face death? How do you become more comfortable, around the fear of death? Yeah, that's really, I was misspeaking there for the first 30 seconds of this. How do you become more comfortable around the fear of death when you can't face death? Because according to your map, according to how you view psychology, right, you have to face the fear directly in order to manage the anxiety around it for it to not lessen, but of course, just become more conscious of it. It's very similar with, some guy has a crush on a girl. Oh, okay, so I have anger because this need's coming into my boundary and I have to figure out how to get this need met. Okay, well, my need is to go out with this girl, but she doesn't like me. So then you can start to think, wait, okay, so now I have to figure out how to trick this girl into liking me. And, these are great questions, but it's just important to realize that the anxiety, even if the anxiety is caused by death, there's other things that are causing that anxiety. And you don't have to face death in a way to become more comfortable with that. I mean, well, that's the thing about anxiety. That's what I've said. Any kind of confrontation of anxiety does feel like facing death. But the idea is you manage different kinds of anxiety that you can manage, and that gets you more comfortable with anxiety in general. And as you become more comfortable with anxiety, become more conscious of it, you bring unconscious anxiety up to the surface and you manage it in an appropriate way, in a win-win, pro-social way. It's all connected. So that is indirectly going to get you more comfortable with the fear of death, and it's just going to start to go away. I mean, you manage the anxiety around women, manage that fear, manage the fear around your job, talking to your boss, figuring out what you really want to do. And it's scary to do that because then you put yourself out there and you start talking to other people and you say, this is what I really want to do, as opposed to, well, I'm just going to be open to whatever opportunity comes up. I mean, should be a little bit of both, but it's more helpful, I think, if you want to live a meaningful life, to go, okay, I'm going to do this thing because I'm naturally good at it. I have an inclination for it. I just feel this visceral attraction to it. Manage that anxiety around that, and then come back and tell me about your fear of death, whether you really fear it. I think we all fear it to some degree, and I have some fear of it. Not that I think about that much. I don't know. I have to think about it more. Do I have a fear of death? Yeah, I do. Maybe more fear of pain around death. Yeah, you know what it really is fear of not living up to my potential. That's really what the fear of death is fear of not living your best life. If I was gonna, it would be, I think the fear of death, my fear of death is more around, I'm not doing enough of what I want to do. There's still more I need to do. That's what I'd be more afraid of, is not doing that. And so that is a good indication of where these things come from. It's not really around dying necessarily, right? There was a time in the existence of the earth where you were dead, and it was called before you were born. So it's just, logically, but it's not about logic, right? It's about managing the anxiety around that. And it's same thing with the girl. Oh, I need this girl to like me. Or do you need that girl to like you, or do you need to get better at girls liking you in general? And especially if you have a difficult time managing your anger, you can't even trust yourself. You can't even trust yourself to say that you like a girl, you have a crush on a girl. Chances are you want some kind of affection from some girl. She's the one with the most proximity to you, so that's the one you latch on to. So what's the real need there? Well, it's getting better at managing needs in general, getting better with your anger in general, and then I think you're going to find your need for that one girl is going to dissipate. I know it will. Yeah, or I need a certain job, right? Same thing. I got to get this job. It's so important. It's going through so many interviews. Do you need that job, or do you need some kind of outlet through which you can be productive in general? Now, it's going to be easier to see that, again, the more you manage the anger. The idea is that anger, all anxious situations are connected. And I think when you really start to manage your anxiety methodically, you're going to realize, this anxiety feeling that comes up for me when I tell the barista that, no, I didn't want that kind of coffee, I wanted some other kind of coffee. It's going to be the same anxiety that you feel in any situation. Whether it's asking a girl out, going in for a job interview, asking for a raise. Given this huge presentation at work, it's all the same. It's all connected. You get better at managing one, you are much more likely to manage another in an effective way. Yeah, job, right? I mean, this is what Job is about. I've talked about that before. My favorite book of the Bible. I wouldn't describe myself as religious by any stretch, but that's what Job is about. Job had this great life, and he's like, this is what I needed in a sense. No, Job, that's not really what you needed. You had to have that taken away from you to realize that you needed something else. You needed something more fundamental. You needed to create a better relationship with reality through which you can go and get all those things that you thought gave you a great life in the first place. That's what you needed. That's the lesson. Job goes from fearing God to walking with God, depending on the translation. And again, what's God? What can we take God for? Reality. Job's relationship with reality. He was fearful. He went from fearful to working with it. And that's really what you need, the specific thing that I'm afraid of. No. You just need a better relationship with reality. And then whatever that insurmountable fear you think is, I don't know. I'm not going to tell you what it's going to be like, but just, get back to me. Let me know how your fear of death is after you get better at managing your anxiety and so your relationship with reality in general, right? And I'll leave it there. Thank you guys for watching. Like and subscribe. Animus at animusempire.com. Getting your questions. I'm doing more of those Q&A videos. We have group. I mentioned that. animusempire.com/group. Individual therapy/therapy. We have resources for you guys. I do a 15-minute free consultation. If you have any questions, if I can help you, I can probably help you, but if I can't, I'll gladly point you to somebody or recommend, just point you into some direction. Just reaching out, just taking that first step to reach out, I think, is super important. Thank you guys again for watching, for listening. And again, as always, I wish you all the joy and pain that comes from reality.